This is a differential, and it's something that Jeep recommends that you service about once every 40,000 miles. But if you tow or are anything like Cindy and I, people who spend a lot of time off-road and wheeling our Jeep hard, it's something that I would recommend you do about once every 15 to 20,000 miles. Of course, it's something you should also do soon after spending some quality time in water that's deep enough to submerge your entire axle. That said, we just finished racking up 500 miles on our odometer after getting new 488 gears installed over at Disciple Off-Road, and changing out the fluid is a necessary step to complete the break-in process. Now, if you've got a Jeep JL Wrangler or JT Gladiator that was made between 2018 and about the middle of 2021, servicing your differentials is super easy to do, and thanks to the convenient drain plugs that they came with. In fact, if you click on the link in the description below, I've got a video that'll show you just how easy it is to do, and all you need is a 3/8" ratchet. Unfortunately, drain plugs are no longer included, and up front, where the plug was located right on the bottom of the differential, I could totally see why. Out on the rocks, that plug would get hammered, and that would lead to serious leaks. On the rear, I can't say that I've ever seen any issues with it, but I suppose Jeep just decided not to take any chances. In any case, servicing your differentials will now require to remove the covers, just like in the olden days. And as you can see here, we do have an aftermarket differential cover made by Curry that we had installed at the same time as our gears, but I can assure you that the process of servicing it is essentially the same as stock. To get started, you're going to want to place an oil catch pan underneath your differential. And if you have a Gladiator, you're going to need to use a 15mm socket to remove the bolt securing your sway bar to the axle. Alright, from here, the drive head on a 3/8" ratchet will be needed to remove a factory fill bolt. But I should note, I like to use a step bit attached to a 1/2" ratchet because it gives me more room to work with and a bit more leverage. But being that we have this Curry cover, I'll be needing a 6mm Allen bit. While I've never seen it be an issue before, removing the fill bolt first is always a good just-in-case step to help ensure you can get fluid back into your diff in the event something were to go wrong. Now, on a factory cover, a 10mm socket will be needed to remove the bolts, securing it to the differential. But on this Curry cover, a 4mm Allen bit is what I'll be needing. As you can see, I removed all but the upper 2 bolts on the differential, but I did make sure to loosen them up. And as you can see, fluid is already draining into the catch pan below. All right, I should note that back in the day, RTV would have been used to seal everything up, and in order to break it free, you'd have to hit the differential cover with a dead blow hammer, and I mean several really big heavy hits, sometimes even more. And of course, all that RTV would needed to have been cleaned off of both the mating surface of the differential and on the differential cover. And to be honest, that was a pain. Fortunately, Jeep, although they got rid of the drain plug, they were nice enough to give us one of these. This is a reusable gasket. And for me personally, I actually kind of like it, if only because it gives me an opportunity to open things up and to give the ring gear and the pinion as good of a look as possible, to look for any signs of damage, chips, or improper wear. Also, now is a great time to go through your oil catch pan to look for any chunks of metal. This fine gray stuff that you see here is totally normal, especially after a re-gear. And if you have a 2018 to a mid-2021 Jeep with a drain plug, the end of that plug is magnetic and it would show up as a gray fuzz. And again, that's totally normal. What's not normal are actual chunks of metal that you can feel, or even sometimes like bits of spring. That isn't right, and that's something that needs to be looked at. All right, with most of the gear oil all drained out, I'm gonna use some brake clean and spray everything down just to clean things up. And we're gonna wanna wipe down the mating surface. And the same can be done for the differential cover. Clean it all up. And do the gasket. All right, taking a bolt and slipping it through one of the upper holes on the differential cover to help hold the gasket in place. And go ahead and reinstall it now. Just thread it in and then add in all the other bolts. Loosely put it in place for now. Kind of want to go in a star pattern and just get it in loosely to make sure all the bolts are going in nice and evenly. Gonna hand tighten it a little bit more from here. And then we're going to set our torque wrench to 30 foot-pounds of torque and then tighten up all our bolts. All right, we're almost ready to fill up the differential. And before I do that, I would normally apply some Teflon paste like you see here onto the threads of the factory fill bolt. But being that we do have this Curry cover, their bolt comes with this O-ring on it, as you can see here, and so none would be necessary. While Jeep does recommend that you use an 80-90 weight fluid in your differential, I'm going to be using a 75-140, and mainly because we have a higher gear ratio than factory, and it's also what's recommended for towing. Now, if you have a limited slip differential, you're going to want to make sure that you add friction modifier to your fluid. Of course, synthetic fluid already has it in it, so nothing extra is needed. And I should note that there are some standard fluids, or what some people call a dyno, that does have friction modifier in it, but you do need to make sure that it states as much on the bottle. Nothing extra is needed if you have a locker. Now, for my purposes, I am going to be using a synthetic Valvoline oil or fluid, and the reason why is because it's cheap, and it can be found just about anywhere, including Walmart. And maybe most importantly, I love the fact that it comes in these bags or pouches, which make it super easy to fill up a differential, even when you got something like a tie rod in your way. Okay. As you can see, these bags really make it easy to squeeze in every last drop. Way easier than the old school plastic bottles. Just kind of roll it down. Now, depending on the size of your axle, your differential may require about 1 liter to 1.5 liters of fluid. And if you have a stock cover or an aftermarket cover like this Curry one that has a fill hole, which is still in the factory location, essentially in line with the base of the axle tube, you'll know when you're full when fluid starts to ooze out of the fill hole. Okay, the fill bolt can now be reinstalled. And then tighten to 25 foot-pounds of torque. All right, if you have a Wrangler, that's all there is to it. But if you have a Gladiator like we do, you're gonna need to reinstall your rear sway bar back onto the axle. Okay, and from here, we just need to tighten those bolts back up to 41 foot-pounds of torque. All right, up front, the process is exactly the same. But unless you've been playing in really deep water or have deleted your FAD, have all-time four-wheel drive, or just wheel your Jeep hard all the time, there really isn't a need for it at this time, or at least you won't need to service your front end as often as your rear. Now, with day-to-day driving in two-wheel drive with FAD, there really isn't gonna be any load on your gears, and I can assure you that the gear oil inside is gonna look as clean and as clear as the day you put it in. Of course, you won't hurt anything if you wanna service it anyway. I hope you found this video to be helpful. And if you have any questions, please be sure to ask them in the comments section on this video. Of course, if you're not already a member, we would love for you to join us on our online community at wayalife.com. Until next time, keep the shiny side up, all four on the floor, and with any luck, we'll see you on the trail.